Jo, Freunde, was geht ab? Wir spielen heute mal wieder dieses Stanley Parable. Sorry. Ich habe gehört, es gibt ein anderes Ende. Warte. Ja, du kannst das sagen. Ja, warte, das habe ich noch nie gesehen. Okay. Achso, ja, okay, das habe ich noch nie gesehen. Nee, weil die meisten Leute machen einfach irgendeine Uhrzeit. Okay, ich habe jetzt gehört, es gibt ein anderes Ende. Ich möchte das jetzt mal testen. Drückst du überspringen, weil wir kennen das Ganze ja. Also, Freunde. Ich habe gehört, wir müssen hier langlaufen.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Genau, also ich wollte euch jetzt noch was anderes erzählen, was ich an diesem Spiel gut finde. Es gibt hier keine Jumpscares. Das liebe ich. Also es gibt hier keine Monster irgendwie. Also ich habe gehört, wir sind ja letztes Mal hier lang gelaufen. Hier dürfen wir nicht lang. Wir müssen nicht hier lang laufen. So. Dann gehen wir hier lang. Hier runter. Letztes Mal sind wir ja gesprungen. Das dürfen wir jetzt nicht. Wir müssen jetzt hier rüberfahren. Bis zum anderen Ende. Also bis nach dort. Bis nach dort drüben hinten. Und jetzt gehen wir hier rüber. Jetzt gehen wir hier rein. Seht ihr? Jetzt sollen wir hier scheinbar annehmen. Ich nehme mal an. Also ich mache das gerade ganz schnell. Und jetzt spawnen wir hier. Und dann mach kurz hier, den Ton wieder rein, weil ich wollte gerade mir was erzählen.
Waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Genau, ich habe mal gehört,
Sorry, but you're in my story now.
Nö. Nö.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him.
Genau.
Every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Kurze Frage, warum?
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work.
Kurze Frage, was
One might
ist
even feel
das?
sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth.
Ja.
The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations.
Warte.
Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful
mit dem Boden
fantasy,
nebenan.
and so in his
Was schon die
head,
ganze
he
Zeit so?
relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Nein.
But there is no answer. How could
Seht
there
ihr? So.
possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Okay. Nein, ich möchte jetzt nicht gehen, aber okay.
And I'm trying to
Müssen
tell
scheinbar.
him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You
Okay.
see, can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Ich möchte aber was.
Suppose I
Ja, ich
can't, not
hinterfrage
in the way I
jeden.
want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
Sorry,
Stanley
Leute.
pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Nein. Wo bin ich? Ah, genau. Das so, ja, ich wollte jetzt vielleicht was. Ja. Jetzt haben wir so ein anderes Ende erreicht.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Jetzt zeige ich euch noch
Stanley
ein
decided
anderes
to go to the
Ende.
meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Schaut mal. Also, ich zeige euch jetzt ein paar verschiedene Enden.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
So, jetzt müssen wir einmal hier durch.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he might coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe
waren wir doch
I
gerade.
am crazy.
Genau.
All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley
So, Freunde, das Ganze dauert jetzt ein bisschen länger. Wir müssen jetzt die ganze Zeit im Kreis laufen. Wir sind jetzt wieder. Wenn ich jetzt ein bisschen länger gelaufen bin.
He pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head.
Ich möchte mal eben, damit ich ein bisschen mit euch reden kann.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. This is the story of a man.
Ja. Ja, genau, jetzt redet er wieder so ein bisschen. Also, das Ganze habe ich gerade für euch ein bisschen verschnellert, als wir hier die ganze Zeit lang gelaufen sind. Weil das wäre sonst echt wirklich viel zu lange, hätte es gedauert. Ich glaube, ihr versteht schon den Sinn. Wir werden jetzt hier die ganze Zeit Dauerschleife weiterlaufen. Gleich wird aber was ganz Bestimmtes passieren. Ich glaube hier. Nee, wir müssen noch einmal laufen. Genau, hier glaube ich. Genau, seht ihr? So. Okay.
Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am
Okay. Wir sind wieder hier. Ja. Das mache ich jetzt mal eben für euch lauter. Weil das müsst ihr hören.
Stanley. I have a boss, I have an office, I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real, I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Hä, warte, das. Hä? Waren wir nicht gerade mit
Mariella
Stanley?
woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, For just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real
Ja,
and
ich hab
what
das ganz
isn't.
kurz.
It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Gut. 3, 2, 1. Büro. Ja, nein, Freunde. Wir haben heute
All
mal
of his co-workers were gone.
das ganze Spiel durchgespielt. Wenn euch das Ganze gefallen hat und wenn ich mehr The Stanley Parable Videos machen soll, dann lasst auf jeden Fall ein Like da, schreibt es in die Kommentare und einen fetten Abo. Würde mich echt freuen und dann würde ich sagen, bis zum nächsten Mal.